The Batman.
Yes.
The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman. So here's the deal. We talked about this movie for a bonus segment the other night, and what happened was the first thing that I'm going to mention is the one thing that I mentioned then, and it's also one of my few detractors for this movie is that this movie is long.
Yeah.
And when it's 2 hours and 55 minutes, and that is that's a long time commitment. 24 hours in the day. You need to spend 3 of them when you really think about it. 4 of them if you count commute. Going to and from this movie. And what I've noticed is that for me, the theater is the best way for me to like be able to deal with my ADHD, meaning it forces me to stay engaged.
Yeah.
I will say if I'm going to list, if there's one like concrete example of like, is there a detractor for someone like me? Now remember, I have extremely bad ADHD, but the theater experience is usually enough to keep me highly engaged. I checked my phone a couple of times during this movie, and I'm usually pretty good. Like I didn't like sit there and like look on the phone, but I looked at the time. I'm like, Brian was there, and he's like, we were like 2 hours in. He's like, how long is this movie? I'm like, dude, we got another hour. He's like, holy crap. The reason why this is so hard to count as a negative is because at first I wanted to bring that up because I was very low energy when we did that review. Like we kind of had to make it just a talk, just like a hangout. But I was just very what's the term for it? I was just very exhausted.
Yeah.
When we were doing that, I was in the wrong picture mode. I was in 3 picture modes. Sorry there. And there's a lot I liked about the movie. There's a few things I didn't like, but I wanted to kind of collect my thoughts. I didn't get a chance to see it again, but I did go through and I wrote down all the stuff that I liked. The first thing is I think they could have cut 15 minutes out of this movie. The best example I can give is the scene at the end when Batman and Catwoman are like going their separate ways. That scene's long. Like that, like it's them on motorcycles for a good 3 to 4 minutes that could have been cut down to a minute. And it didn't feel like there was really any like Bruce was looking over his shoulder at her, or he was looking at the mirror. Like because Bruce, the downside is that Bruce, I didn't feel that there. Now you'll have to tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I didn't feel a whole lot of chemistry between Zoe Kravitz and Robert Pattinson, but I don't think that is their fault. I think this is the fault of that character of the Batman being so not one-dimensional, but so down the whole movie. He is so beaten and emotionally drained and very hollow. He's sad. He's sad. He's angry. He's all these things, but it comes out as kind of stoic sadness. And that doesn't lend itself a lot of room to be taken in by this charismatic, beautiful woman because he feels kind of awkward. And Pattinson even says that in his in his interviews. He's like, "Look, Bruce Wayne in this movie, not the Batman, but Bruce Wayne is a weirdo in this movie. The way he acts at the funeral, or the few scenes in the manor, are not really any different from how he behaves when he's in the cape and cowl."
Yeah.
So did you feel that they had chemistry? Was that just me? Was it just my interpretation?
I felt like they did, like in the beginning like she's like yelling at him but then pulls him in. It's like a weird, like they tried to write something romantic.
So you mean like physical, the physicality like connected with you more than it did with me?
Yeah, and also like the emotions too, because like she's looking for her friend. Now she found out that he's dead. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yes, we should. Well, I don't think we've revealed any spoilers up to this point. We're gonna talk spoilers, guys. We'll put it in the title that we're gonna talk spoilers.
But so she found out her friend was dead, and then like she's going back and forth through her emotions, and he's like telling her like you shouldn't do that because that's gonna make it worse. Like it's not gonna help you.
Yep.
And she's like, well, what about you? Wouldn't you feel the same? And he's like, meh.
Yeah, like to me, it just feels like he feels like kind of like a black hole of Robert Pattinson is a charismatic dude, but in a different way than the Batman. People think he's the perfect fit for the Batman because of Twilight, but off camera he's a very charismatic and energetic dude for the most part. Okay, one thing, so me and you, so we disagree on that. We did, like, you felt there was chemistry there. I didn't feel like it was there. I also am not a huge fan of Zoe Kravitz in her. We're gonna be talking about. You all right?
Yeah, sorry, I got like a message from somebody.
Turn your phone over.
I know, but I didn't know the
I demand
number.
your attention right now.
Okay, sorry. But
Thank
yeah, like as you said, like it's kind of weird because like he's trying to do brooding in like the loner aspect, but again, like we found out he's only doing Batman for 2 years.
Yes, this is his second year as Batman.
Mhm.
That actually, I was talking to Tim about this. He's not a huge fan of the idea of Batman not being really good at the stuff he does.
Yeah.
I actually really liked there's one specific scene where he's about to use the hang glider, the costume. There's
Yeah.
a name for that. I heard somebody mention it. Now I can't remember what it is. But he puts on like a hang gliding suit, right?
Mhm.
And he like steps up the side of like this like gargoyle or something, a statue on the top of a building,
Yeah.
and he looks scared as shit.
Mhm.
Like he looks like he's terrified to jump, as
Yeah.
you would be in your second year of doing it. Like who knows if he's even used that.
No, I think it's like his first time trying it because he's like, okay.
The other thing, I'm not going to dance around it. I hated the white privilege comment, but not for the reason that you think. I don't care that she mentioned that. Income inequality was a large theme of this movie,
Yeah.
And political corruption was a large theme of this movie.
Yeah.
But they were done so in a way where they're using evergreen language that can be talked about 10 years, 5 years, 20 years from now, and all of those themes and ideas will hold up.
Yeah.
But a comment like that is so of the moment. It's so of the early 2020s
Yeah.
to late 2019s that you're going to like it took me out of the movie. I was like she could have said anything there.
Yeah.
Like she's these corrupt rich
White privilege.
no, that was the thing is she didn't have to say it. All she has to say
Yeah.
is these corrupt rich politician assholes. That's all she has to say there. You do not. First of all, it makes the assumption that nobody of any other race has ever been corrupted in politics before, which is
Yeah.
obviously stupid and untrue and not realistic to the world we live in. But it's full of social commentary that didn't need to be there because the social commentary buried within the message of the movie is just as effective. You can talk about political corruption.
Yeah.
You can talk about social inequality and class structure problems through the tone of this movie, especially with Batman, given that Batman is a rich, comes from a rich background, but sacrifices for the poor. It felt like they were saying that the only way to solve these problems is to throw money at it. And that's, we all know, doesn't really work. The war on drugs has proved that.
Yeah.
The war on poverty has proved that. So it's like, I appreciated the themes. Like I heard people calling like a lot of the themes of this movie woke. I said, no, these are, to me, accurate to a Batman telling. But I
Yeah.
just don't think you need to hammer it home with clumsy language that doesn't fit.
Yeah, like how this one Rotten Tomato critic said, "What's wacky? Woke cast like indie movie answer this Batman reboot." And he gives it like 5 stars, and I'm like, I didn't really see it as
Yeah.
woke because like as you said, like
Yeah.
it talks about poverty because like I don't know
That's a central theme of Gotham in almost everything that they do with these things. The
Yeah.
idea is that corruption is what they're going for a different a story here. In the past, you would have gone with the story that money can't fix it, and the only way Batman can fix it is to literally beat the problem out of the city, right?
Yeah.
Scare the criminals so badly that they don't commit crimes.
Yeah.
They kind of did that in Arrow too, in the first, especially the first few seasons of Arrow,
Yeah.
where he literally scares the criminals into just not committing crimes.
Yeah.
But in this, they're talking about it as if Bruce Wayne can fix this with money. But what they're actually trying to figure out here, and one of the things I liked is he's trying to figure out what his role as Batman is in the city. So
Yeah.
I don't begrudge them not further figuring out who Bruce Wayne is yet, because he's still figuring out how Batman is supposed to represent what Batman is supposed to represent
Yeah.
to the city. And I thought that was well done in the end when he dives back into the water and he lights the flare and he leads people out.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that a lot.
that was
like
really good.
I felt that scene. The problem was I felt like it took too long to get there.
Well, the scene, I also love that scene where he turns on the flare and he holds out his hand
Yeah.
to the mirror,
Yeah.
and she was hesitant to grab it because like they don't know if like he's the good guy or not.
Exactly.
So when
Because he's
the
not even
kid-
called Batman yet, really.
Yeah.
The Joker, or I'm sorry, the Riddler called him the Batman, but he was calling himself Vengeance.
Yeah.
He never called, I don't think he ever called himself the Batman. Like, it was only when in reference to the Riddler that they
Yeah.
started calling him that.
Yeah. Well, like that scene is also powerful because like a little kid grabbed his hand.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know. Like for me, I feel like this movie is really good. I don't know who said it. But they said that in the comic books. I think you said it. In the comic books, they portray Gotham is like this rundown city.
Yes.
And this is what I really liked in the movie, because it doesn't show that Gotham is like this hoity-toity little city that happens to have like a side of it where it's like dirty and like poor.
They did that in The Dark Knight, because remember they called that side of the city the Narrows.
Yeah.
In Arrow, that was called the Glades.
Yeah.
So that's not it's basically a kitschy term for slum, or whatever, if your neighborhood has like a trailer park or ghetto where historically they say crime, poverty happens in those areas.
Yeah.
And this it's portrayed as almost the entire town is like that.
Yeah,
the entirety of Gotham is like that.
That's what I really like about it, because like there's a lot of crime that's going around, and like you can't really tell like in Dark Knight or Arrow unless you go to that side of town. But if they write stories that way, me as a viewer, I would have thought like, Winnie does not go to that side of the town. They don't need your help. Just help the town that you're part of. Like, stay safe.
Yep.
It's just dumb. But I really like how the Batman portrayed this city. Like, basically everywhere it's like dirty and gringy and poor. Like, nobody has law there. It's like a lawless land.
Yep.
Like the Wild West.
They actually didn't really they didn't actually make police corruption as much of a thing as they made political corruption in this movie. In the past, it was like he could only trust Jim Gordon, because all the other cops were on the take. And this, it was more about the fact that all the politicians, all of the rich, entitled politicians were corrupt.
In the movie, he does say like, I think it's like towards the end, he was talking to Commissioner Gordon. He's like, "Do you trust him?" He's like, "No," and he's like, "Yeah, I only trust you."
Yeah. I actually thought that line was slightly unearned.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen enough of him and Gordon. One movie isn't enough of him and Gordon together.
But I like their relationship because, like, have you watched the Harley Quinn series on HBO Max?
I know what it is.
Yeah. So basically, in that series, they said that, like, it's the same thing, like how Joker can't live without Batman, but it's the same thing with Commissioner Gordon. He can't live without Batman, and they're like actually close friends.
Yep.
But like Batman keeps on pushing him away until they need him.
Were you glad that they skipped the death of the Waynes?
Kind of.
Yes, I don't think we need it. Especially if they've not retconned. What they've done is they've put Alfred's past in the source material of being like a special. He was not just some butler; he was a military guy. So they've put that to use they've kind of omitted Ra's al Ghul. There's no League of Assassins. He was trained by Alfred, and Alfred can teach him how to fight, but he can't really, as far as I know, like he's not going to teach him all of the kind of cloak and dagger techniques that the League taught him. Using fear as a using a symbol to strike fear in your enemies. That's not really something that comes with military jargon. That would have come from the League. That wouldn't have come from Alfred. So he knows how to fight, but he hasn't really polished the role of Batman yet and how he's going to take on criminals. So I do think that he captured the unfinished, unpolished nature of this, and the suit goes along with that perfectly. It looks like he sewed that suit.
Signal.
It looks like he sewed the suit himself. The things on his arm just look like his the guards on his arm. The flechettes just look like he could have gotten them at any store.
That's really what it's called.
The little arrows.
Yeah,
those are called flechettes.
I didn't know that was a term.
It's a term. One surprising to me. I loved Paul Dano as the Riddler. More so than I liked him as Edward Nash, meaning that him as I liked him in costume more than I liked him outside of the costume. I felt like, first of all, his voice was terrifying, but it's only terrifying when it's under the mask. He's just he pulls off kind of nutty, like you can see it almost go when he's doing the interview, or not the interview, when him and Bruce are talking at Arkham. There's a few moments where he's like he's having his Bruce says something, and we're being very vague, but we're actually not giving that many spoilers. But there's a scene where he stops something and he kind of freaks out, and it becomes almost childish, and it just grazes the edge of comical. Because of the shape of Paul Dano's face and his glasses.
Well, Brian describes it well. When he's outside of the mask, he looks like a lot like Ted Bundy.
Dundee.
Dundee. I don't know. But
Serial killer Ted Bundy.
I'm sorry, I'm making up names now, but like he looks like him.
Yeah,
Kind
okay.
of, like-
I don't know what he looks like off the top of my head. So
No, like you remember. Basically, they made a movie where Zac Efron played as him.
yes, I saw that.
So basically, he has big glasses like that.
Yep.
Big glasses, and like his hair is like all messy and long.
One of the things I liked that they did was that they had him wear the glasses over the mask.
Yeah.
As a glasses wearer, I can appreciate that. He doesn't just put in contacts to become a serial killer.
Yeah.
He has to put that mask on and put those glasses on over it. The fact that they weren't fogging up is the most unrealistic thing in this movie, actually, when you really think about it. Underrated. Everyone's talking about Colin Farrell as the Penguin,
Yeah.
who's fantastic.
Yes.
That voice doesn't sound anything like Colin Farrell. He doesn't look anything like Colin Farrell. But I don't think John Turturro as Carmine Falcone is getting enough credit either. I thought
Yeah.
he did a great job as this kind of like vaguely menacing mobster who is what is he? He's Selena Kyle's dad.
Yeah.
He had Selena Kyle out of wedlock with her mother.
Yes.
And like his scenes, I just like Zoe Kravitz is it's this weird thing. She's beautiful. She has a decent amount of charisma.
Yeah.
But I just can't get into her. Like when I'm watching the stuff, she like her like I don't even know if it's necessarily that it's bad or if it's the roles I'm catching her in. I had no problem with her casting in this. I had no problem with
I think Kimmy ruined you.
Kimmy. That honestly might be it. Like she's also making comments on like as try as I might not to let stupid stuff celebrities say in the same thing for Felix for Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. They say stupid stuff in social media that
Wait, what did she say?
We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about it. Stay tuned to tomorrow's episode of Cast Castle if you want to find out. But one of the reasons I don't have a Twitter is so that I can stay blissfully ignorant of like stupid stuff that celebrities say because I don't want to hold it against them in their performance, but I can't trust myself that it won't.
Yeah. Well, she has RBF.
I don't know what that means.
Resting.
She has resting B face. She has I'm extremely attractive and I know it face. Which, if you've got it, good on you, but maybe they're always talking about subvert expectations. How about subvert expectations and don't have that face every once in a while? But then again, you know why that is, right? Because if you tell her to smile, it's you're basically you're a man. Yeah, you're an evil dude. Like, hey, yes. We're not going to go farther into that one. That's all you got to say for that one. In general, I don't think there's a lot. What's interesting is like there isn't a lot of difference between Wayne and Batman, and that makes it weird in some places. Like the funeral was the best example of that. He's really standoffish and awkward at the funeral, and I kind of loved it. But you can't. It's not going to be accurate forever. They're going to have him grow into the character of Bruce Wayne, the persona of Bruce Wayne. But in general, I loved the movie because it gave us something different. This is film noir. This is a detective story. It's a serial killer drama. It is not a superhero movie. So even if I think it was a tad too long, even if there are things that I would have done a little bit differently, I still think it's worth it for movies like this to get made because they open the door for maybe the next person does another take on a slightly less derivative comic book story, and that one ends up being the one that rings even more true with me.
Yeah, well, for me, I feel like artist's perspective, like it's very aesthetically pleasing.
Oh yeah, it's
like
we
the
didn't
lights
even mention
are
that.
beautiful. Like they have orange lights and there's like gray and haze everywhere. I love that because it kind of reminds me of like big cities like that where it's run down. They're very heavily polluted.
It's what's interesting is I didn't even think of mentioning it because it just seemed so blatantly what it was that it didn't feel like it needed mentioning. But if you guys haven't seen it, it is a gorgeously shot movie with the score was. Some people really love that score. I'm kind of ambivalent on it, but like I'm a Hans Zimmer guy all the way. So
What's
this is
Hans
he does scores for movies.
Okay.
But this wasn't him. So I don't know if they would have been able to get him for a different score for this one. But I'm guessing that the guy who did, I think it's Michael Giacchini. I don't know if him and Reeves have worked together in the past. That could be why. But it was good. It just for me, it was also, but remember, the movie's also very slow paced. It's very, I guess the upsell version of that is it's methodically placed. So we'll see where it goes in the future. I do think that there's a lot of room for even better movies. I will say I thought that the scene at the end with the Riddler and what we know now as going to be the Joker was unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't think they needed to include that in there. It almost felt like a studio note.
Yeah.
To like they had to include it. And the reason I say we know now is because it says the Batman director Matt Reeves just confirmed the identity of Barry Keoghan's character. The Batman director Matt Reeves has confirmed who Barry Keoghan plays in the film. Matt Reeves has opened up about the important reveal in the Batman in an interview with IGN. The hotshot director revealed that he shot fake scenes to preserve a key reveal of the DC reboot. In the same interview, the director revealed Barry Keoghan's mysterious character is none other than the Batman's most notorious villain. Gee, I wonder who that is. I don't think they need to do the joke. Like, I really don't. What's weird is I think like the Joker fits best within like a more modern frame, like a more realistic framework, like what we saw with Nolan. And this, I don't think they needed to do him in Justice League or Batman vs Superman. I don't think it made any, or the Suicide Squad. I don't think it. Well, I guess in the Suicide kind of makes sense. But those were so campy that there's very few actors, in my opinion, that can do that level of camp, not animated now, without it coming across hokey. Especially after we've been given these very serious portrayals of that character. Yeah. So I felt like they didn't need it. Like, there's got to be another villain you'd rather see other than the Joker.
Two-Face.
Two-Face.
Yeah, because like if they go along the lines about politics being corrupted, Two-Face is the perfect character for that because he was a politician before he got the scarring. And
perhaps the politicians are the focus of movie 1. Maybe cops are the focus of movie 2.
Maybe.
I would have rather seen Deathstroke. I don't know if that necessarily fits in this world yet.
I feel like it's too modern and too advanced for him. Because right now he's still new to
maybe
Batman.
in movie 3, like maybe something that happens in movie 2 leads to the fallout for Slade Wilson that requires Deathstroke to take out all the people that Bruce cared about, similar to that script that Ben Affleck had with Joe Manganiello.
Yeah. What about Mr. Freeze?
They're talking about that. They're talking about doing a more like a realistic human approach to Mr. Freeze because that story is tragic. What happened?
Yeah, it's so tragic, and I love it so much. And so like Harley Quinn, the animated series, kind of talked about it. Like I think it was in season 1. Basically, he was like, "I want to save my wife," and like Harley Quinn thought he was an abusive husband, so like she unfreezed his wife, and she was like, "My love, did you find the cure?" And he was like, "See what you did, you caused her to die sooner." And like Poison Ivy found the cure, but it caused him to die instead.
Oh man, it's like, so there's a way you can do that. Like that's, so maybe that one's movie 2.
Yeah, well, like if they do Mr. Freeze, like can they actually do like the moment where his wife like is about to die and he's like, "I'm sorry, honey, I have to freeze you until I find the cure."
This Matt Reeves is more likely to be able to pull this off than many people. So we'll see how that comes out. I just felt that scene was a little bit...
Or they can do Poison Ivy again.
That would be hard to do. I mean, I guess she kind of fits in with Catwoman. Like they have to find. So I don't want it.
Well, like
personally, I don't want it. It's going to be full of all sorts of agenda and
well, like because she is.
They'll make it about climate change. You know, they'll make it about climate change.
I know, but it'd be funny because like, again, I'm gonna bring up the Harley Quinn series. Like, they talk about her background story. So she came from a affluent family, and they didn't like her because they thought she wasn't good enough.
No.
And like she had a lot of trauma for it.
Yeah.
Because basically she had a birthday party, like she was turning 5, but nobody showed up. And like
I think that's every kid's biggest fear, that they're, you're gonna host the big party.
Yeah.
I mean, like in high school, that should be like a requirement. Your parents should be required to go out of town at least once while you're in high school, and it's a test for, do you have the guts to throw a party and risk people not showing up?
Yeah. I don't know. Like for me, I was never a party person as a kid. Like I like going, but then too many people and I get overstimulated. I get tired quickly. I actually it's really funny. Like what you mentioning that, I remember like I did throw a party like at my dad's place one time, and I now vaguely remember my friend Jordan walking into my neighbor's house at like 2 a.m. and he's like, "Your neighbors are really cool," because I just like walked in and they're like,
house next door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally haven't thought about that in probably a decade and a half until you brought that up now. It just popped into my head.
Mhm. Well, like I don't mind like throwing parties, but like for me, like too many people, too many stimuli, I get tired
Yep,
quickly, and
me
I'm like,
too.
you need to leave now. I'm tired.
Gee, now you understand why I kick people out of my room. Would here?
It's this one person. It's me.
But I'm saying, but why I keep my door closed and then like
Yeah.
let people live their life
Yeah.
outside because I get stuff to do. One thing that's interesting. Actually, no, I'll come back to that at the end of the show. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.